At this time, I would like to present someone who is so amazing. He's a breath of fresh air. He's a great friend. He's someone who touches hearts. He's someone who has also suffered a violence that many of us mothers would never understand that a man could also suffer. I recall the first time that I walked into a training that I had, and this man came and sat at the table, and I was like, it's kind of weird. It's all women here, and I see some man come sit at the table. So I just sat quiet and just waited to see who this person was. And he walked up and he gave this speech. And after his speech, he sung a song that touched my heart in a way that I'm sure that every mother who has lost a child would understand. I was having such a hard time at GSU because it was my first time ever going to any type of training or anything to do with gun violence. After we sat down and had our trainings, he came to me and he said, there's something about you that I feel that I need to minister to you right now. It's going to be okay. And as I said, ever since then, he has touched my heart in a way that it just amazes me that someone can take that time. I know that it's part of something that he does. I know it's in his heart, but as I said, it's just something that touched me that I will never forget. He's from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I am so honored that he was so gracious enough to take the time to travel all these miles to come and speak for me today as a keynote speaker, as a friend, and as someone who values losing family members as we do. At this moment, I would like to welcome Pastor Jackie Jackson.
Breathe again. Let me ask you, can you hear me? All right, I'm going to lose this mic. That's okay.
You are a pastor after all.
Which means we have a big mouth. I get it. That's me. First, I want to give honor to God for being here. I think it's a blessing and an honor. I also want to thank Safer Communities for Justice, the Nonviolence Institute, Moms Demand Action, obviously the police, because no matter what somebody may feel at any given time, if it comes your way, you're going to pick up, you're going to call 911. And so I'm always grateful for having our police department. I want to also give a special thanks to Diana. I have watched her, I've listened to her speak, I've watched her online. She'll send me when she gets the opportunity to speak. I know the pain from talking to her that she deals with. I know her heart. I know her desire that even in the midst of her pain, to make sure that someone else who is in pain can get some comfort, and also to make sure that those who have not faced that pain yet may, with the work that she and we collectively do, will never have to face it. When I was asked to speak, one of the first questions that always comes to my mind is, do I have something useful to say? Something important, because anybody can get up and speak. We have a mouth, so if we have the gift of speaking, if we have our voice, speaking is easy, but do I have something important to say? Do I have something motivating to say? Do I have something educating to say? If I'm not going to be able to motivate you, if I'm not going to be able to educate you, then what am I doing here? And I thought about that, And that's any time we do, when we're offered an opportunity to speak, you want to make sure in your mind, I've got to make sure I bring the fire. Then I thought about it. Do I have anything useful or important? I was shot at 10 years old by a trusted neighbor. This is an adult neighbor. Myself and a friend. Yeah, I think I got something important to say. In the last 7 years, 8 family members of mine in the city of Cincinnati have been murdered. Those are 8 individual murders. And I thought, yeah, I must have something useful to say because I've experienced and I understand what gun violence is. And of the 8, only 3 of the killers have been brought to justice. So I understand what unsolved is. I'm not confused by that. And then when I think about it, in the same city of Cincinnati, over the same last 7 years, I've had 6 family members who have been shot and wounded. All individual acts of gun violence. Of the 8 homicides I told you about, 1 was 14. The one that was 14 was shot almost 5 years to the day, or murdered almost 5 years to the day that his father was murdered. Neither one was the intended victim. And I thought, yeah, I got something important that I need to say because I have walked it. I'm not from Rhode Island. So somebody might say, you don't have a dog in the fight here. But see, we're all people. I don't have to be from Rhode Island to understand if you have unsolved murder in your family, the pain that you're going through. Listen, I can understand the thought of wanting to go. I believe the major, I think, said, handle it yourself. I'm a preacher. You don't think that's ever came up in my head? You don't think I ever went, wait a minute, I wasn't born a preacher. I thought about that. It's like, I can begin to educate. I can motivate. I can motivate because I understand what it's like to be in a position where you have your loved one murdered and it's unsolved. And listen, we can say the police aren't doing their jobs. In Cincinnati, I'm with Everytown for gun safety now. But before I got with Everytown for gun safety, I worked through the city of Cincinnati as a community outreach advocate. Our job was to respond to homicides and shootings in the 5 Cincinnati police districts 7 days a week, and we were on call 24 hours a day, and we worked a 40-hour work week with a caseload of shooters. So we worked with the murderers, we worked with the robbery boys, we worked with the dope boys, we worked with the dope addicts. There would be days in our office, we might have 7 or 8 people in there with guns. Talking about killers. So I thought, man, I get what you're going through. And I thought it was important to be able to speak on that. But you go, well, the police aren't doing what they need to do. I worked alongside Cincinnati police every day, in the middle of the night, snow, rain, heat. I know a lot of fantastic officers, but I'm going to be honest. I know some that ain't all that fantastic. But you know what? As a black man, one of the worst things I hate is when somebody lumps me into one group as a black man. I got to be what every mistake that any other black man made, I got to live that mistake. Why? Just because of the color of my skin. And so when I think about that as a police officer, it's got to be frustrating when you got to be lumped in with the bad officers. But let's be honest, there are some bad. See, you can't fix a problem if you don't acknowledge a problem exists. So there are some bad officers. But let's be honest, the majority of the officers are not doing what they're doing. So you go, they're not fixing the problem. There's another part to that problem, though. We want them to fix it, but we don't want to say nothing. See, there's a problem in the community. We all got to take a little bit of responsibility for unsolved. It's the police job to work the case. Part of working the case is getting information. If there's some water in here, I would really desperately appreciate it. Because it was getting dangerous In a minute, you're just gonna start seeing that white stuff. And I'm sitting here, I don't want that to happen. But to my point, in the community, we want the officers to work unsolved. Part of their job of working unsolved is gathering information. If you don't want to share information, listen, I get it. Snitches get stitches. But do you know why there are so many homicides in especially communities of color? It's because we have given license to the murderer. We've given license to them to say you can walk around the community, you can kick it on the corner with your boys. On my job with the outreach advocates, there were times I went to a community. Let's say I went on 7th Street because there was a homicide. And when we got there, we did on-site counseling, conflict mediation, and crowd control. We would get there and there's a family. I'm looking at someone laying on the ground and there's a mother or a son or a daughter and they're crying and they're pleading. Somebody say something, and the people that were there, when it happened, I just turned my head. Now listen, if you're saying why are you picking on the community? Because we all need to be picked on, from the police to the community. Because if it is not a collective effort, nothing is going to get done. I would have a person screaming, who did it? Somebody say something, please. And everybody, I don't know. Now, maybe a month later, I'm back on 7th Street. Not for that same family. But one of the families that was out there before, that didn't see nothing, now they're out there screaming, somebody say something, I know you saw something. Because see, most of the time, you don't believe in snitching until it's your kin. Now your whole snitching. And let me say something else too. You can't snitch if you wasn't a part of the crew. If you wasn't a murderer, how you snitching? I can't snitch on you if I wasn't with you. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm never gonna snitch. I'm just gonna straight up tell. Because see, if you'll kill that person, you'll kill me. So the way to keep me safe, I gotta get rid of you. So if you see something, say something. Hear something, say something. Know something, say something. Heard something, say something. Because the life you save might be your own. Or your baby's. Because you know, when these fools, I guess I can't say fools, when these fools are out here shooting, they don't care who they're shooting at. And they don't care about your baby, your grandmother, your dog. They don't care about you. But I guess I got off track. I'm supposed to be talking about unsolved murders, aren't I? And I am talking about what we can do. Listen, when I was sitting down thinking what I was going to say, I started pulling up Rhode Island because I wanted to get up, I wanted to get some stats. And I wanted to come in here and run down this. You live in Rhode Island. Do you really need me to come all the way from Cincinnati and run down your stats that I'm probably going to get wrong because I'm going to be trying to take it and compile it? You don't need me to tell you about stats. You know what we need sometimes? Sometimes we just need a little motivation. Sometimes you need to understand that you are not alone. Listen, whether you have an unsolved murder in your family, you know someone who has an unsolved murder, maybe you don't know anybody necessarily that's been affected by gun violence that's close to you. It's still affecting your community. It's still affecting your school. Your kids, maybe not your kids, but the kids in your community are going to school every day expecting to learn, and there was a murder on their block. And they had to see it. And now they got to go learn ABC. You sit at your desk sometimes and you can't do your job, or wherever you work at, and you can't do your job sometimes because you're worried about a bill you got to pay. And you at work to make the money to pay the bill. And our babies got to go to school remembering a tragic incident. Unsolved murders are big. I said I could educate, and I'm going to read this because as much as I'd like to, tell me how you, I'm not even going to try to mess up your name. What was your name, young lady, the speaker? Jahan Delise. I had it right. I should have just said it. That's what I thought. See, young people like her and I, we use iPhones. I'm a millennial. But I just want to read this piece. In the United States, many homicides go unsolved. Nearly 40% of homicides were unsolved. Nearly 40%. if somebody took 40% of your paycheck, nearly 40% of homicides were unsolved in 2019. This is a crisis particularly true for gun crimes committed against Black and Latinx people. The result is that thousands of Americans do not have their day in court and see zero accountability for survivors of gun violence. We must help raise awareness about this problem. If you didn't know it was 40%, now you know. You can say, Pastor Jackson gave me a little bit of education. I'm going to give you a little bit more. I'm almost done here, by the way. I know I'm a preacher. Y'all thinking he's going to talk all day. We want to get some food, because you know that's what preachers, not me, all right? The emotional and physical tolls endured by victims and survivors of gun violence are devastating. I don't think you need anyone to tell you that. Our government system must not only respond to investigatory and accountability demands of survivors, but also ensure that survivors have the resources they need to heal and thrive following an incident of gun violence. That's just a few things, something I want to share with you. It is important that we understand, because sometimes we don't think, sometimes we're so consumed, and we should be, by what's on our block. We don't always realize that that problem exists on the next block. And that problem exists on I-95, I get it right, 95. I-95, I'm cooking with fire here. It exists on I-95, and it goes all the way, and I ain't gonna try to figure out what all connects, but it comes all the way to where I am in Cincinnati, and it just keeps traveling. Unsolved murders is an issue, 40%, look, you get paid Friday, and somebody, you look at your check, and you realize 40% of your money is gone. Attorney General, I'm calling him. Hey, Peter, they took my money. That's the way you need to be calling the police. Going, hey, I saw something. Well, you know what? This is beautiful. I'm sorry. Safer communities. You got a vehicle now? Go, listen, you need to run and tell that. You need to go say, there is a site that you can go to, and you don't have to give any identifying information, but you can give information to get the killer off the street. Why is it important to get the killer off the street? Because the next person he kills, now I'm getting ready to go rogue a little bit here. Because we talk, listen, murder, homicide has become so commonplace. Where's that water? I need that again. Thank you. It's become so commonplace, let me get it back, that we don't see it for what it is. Because we can watch it on television. See, I'm 61. I remember when Hustler, what was the owner of Hustler, brought out the Vietnam magazine. You remember that? Remember that, Major? He brought it out and he showed what happened in Vietnam. It was gory. He showed the gore. Murder and homicide has been romanced a little bit. Why do you need to get the next murderer off the street? Because if you don't, the next time, it might be you laying on the ground, bleeding out. Because see, it ain't beautiful like on television. They don't get shot and go, ooh, oh, tell my mom that I said. It ain't beautiful like that. I've been to over 400 homicide and shooting scenes. And some of the ones I went to were my family. It ain't beautiful. And though they didn't know I was there, I know I was there. And I dream about it. And I had to go on a 4-month leave because I dreamed about being murdered every night and getting called by my program manager that there's a homicide. So I got in my car and drove to the team, and we walked over to me together and looked down, and they said, that's you. And then I'd wake up every night. And I got to where, for a while, I was keeping my curtains closed again. So we got to do something. You got to help. If it ain't you, you got to help families. You got to help families. I've been gone too long. I only had 10 minutes, didn't I? I told you don't let a preacher talk. You ain't listening. If you or someone you know have been affected by gun violence, you can text Survivor to 64433. That'll get you connected to Every Town for Gun Safety. Every Town for Gun Safety and Moms Demand Action is connected. Every Town for Gun Safety is the largest gun violence advocacy organization in the country. We're over 6 million strong. We're in every state in the United States. Moms Demand Action is under the umbrella of Every Town for Gun Safety. We work hand in hand. Moms Demand does a great job of getting survivors to the State House, dealing with legislation, letting you know what bills are coming up, making sure you know. At Every Town for Gun Safety, we're the Survivor Network. And what we do is we work with survivors to help make sure that you have the resources that you need. I hope, I pray, that I said something that was educating. I hope I said something that's motivating. I hope I said something that was useful. See, Don, I didn't say youthful this time. Because all in the car, I kept saying youthful. That was useful. I pray that it does. I had the opportunity a couple of months ago to go down to Atlanta, Georgia, and work with a young man by the name of Chris Flame. Chris Flame is, and you can get ready, Don. Chris Flame is a multi-platinum Grammy-nominated producer. And I called him because I had an idea. I talked to a survivor with Every Town who I work with as well, and his son was murdered at a university shooting some years ago. And he gave a speech at that university, and he used the Shakespeare phrase, "Not one more." And I had worked with him for a while, but one day we were just on the phone talking, and I had the great opportunity to hear his story in full. And it touched me so much that I called him a few days later and said, "Richard, I want to write a song using Not One More." And he said, "I'm fine with it. You might have to reach out to Shakespeare because it is." But I told him no, with the motivation of his son, Chris. And his son Chris and 6 others were murdered at a university. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the university. The most important fact is that his son was murdered. And I don't think the university would matter at the end of the day. He lost his son. But I talked to Chris, and I went down and we recorded this song. It's called Not One More. I would like to do that song for you. And I'm hoping that it'll be a part of the educating and the motivating. We're going to use the track. I'm going to drink some more water because I don't want you to go, "Man, he came up here and it sounded horrible. I don't know why I got that." Yeah, let's do a test. I hear the thunder and the lightning. We're good to go. Yeah, so we'll start it over. We just wanted to be sure it was going to work. Music maestro, please. Not one more family should wonder how they'll make it through. Not one more politician should should say my thoughts and my prayers are with you.
Faith without works is dead.
No more fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, standing at the place of worship store, seeing their loved one, oh no, 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 gunned down on the floor. We need to make a change and say, not one more, no, not one more. No, not another child should be gunned down to play no more, not one more. We gotta make a change. How we do this thing, we gotta make a change. And say, will you help me say, lift your voice and say, not one more. No more grocery stores. You shouldn't be losing your life at the grocery store. No more festivals. No one should die at a festival. We're shooting kids in the school. We're shooting people at the park. You can't even go to a concert. Another mother's crying. Another baby's dying. Oh, oh, oh. We gotta do something. Let's say not one more.
Jared Laquan Brown.
Say not one more.
Xavier Arnold.
Say not one more.
Laura.
Please say not
Sarah
one
Whitson.
more.
Rachel Whitson.
Can you lift your hands and agree with me?
Essence T. Crystal.
Raise your voice.
Frederick Myron Smith. Dominique Milton Williams. Tyke Mr. Slugmo Douglas.
To my family and all the families everywhere who have lost loved ones to gun violence, will you lift your voice with me and say, not one. I want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you, Diana. Safer Communities, the Nonviolence Institute, and everybody here. I say God bless you. And if you see something, say something.
I would like to personally thank you so much for such an amazing speech, for taking your time to travel and come this far, to speak to our families and loved ones, our community, our police department, our attorney general, our mayor, just everyone who is here today. You're such a blessing, and as I said earlier, I will always hold you close to my heart. We appreciate you. And on behalf of Safer Communities for Justice, we would like to present this to you for being our keynote speaker.
This, am I holding it the right way? I'll read back as well. This is beautiful. I want to thank you. Wasn't expecting something like this. I just came because it's you. And when you build relationships, you should be able to reach out to those relationships and say, I need you. And those relationships should be able to say, I got you. So anything, I got you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.